Well, now, the dominant figure at the Cannes Festival this year was Tim Robbins. First, he starred in Robert Altman's satire The Player, and then he popped up again with Bob Roberts, another sharp and funny satire, this time aimed at the American electoral system. To say that this is Robbins' film is putting it mildly. He wrote, he directed, he starred, he composed and sang the songs, and for all I know, he was also the gopher who went for the coffee and the bacon sarnies. In the title role, he plays a wealthy, crooked, hugely hypocritical crypto-fascist folk singer, running for the US Senate on a platform that combines an endorsement of greed with a plea for a return to old-fashioned, down-home moral values. And this is what Robbins had to say when I talked to him about the film in Cannes. Did it start originally as a sketch you did for Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
Really? It grew from that little
Well, it wasn't
seed.
a sketch. It was they did these things, these short movies.
Yeah.
They gave me some money to produce a 5-minute film, and I did, and they put it on the air, and that was that. And then a few years later, I got to thinking about the character again, and I started writing a longer script. And as the Reagan years evolved, so did Bob Roberts, and he became a politician.
Why did you have to go to Britain to get the money to make it?
I don't know. I think it probably has to do with the fact that Americans don't really have true satire. I don't really know any true satirists in America. I think England has a long tradition of good satirists and can appreciate a political comedy. I would hate to, however, put that label on my film, although I just did.
You just did.
Yeah.
It's very funny as well. Let's point
yeah,
that out.
I think certainly from what I've seen on the telly in England, there's definitely a appetite for documentary, for this kind of exploration. I find it so much more stimulating to turn the television on in England, because there's always something I can learn about. And we set this film in documentary style for a few reasons, but one of them is the limitations it puts on you, and how you must tell a story within a certain context, and you can never see the real Bob Roberts. You can only see the veiled Bob Roberts in the image.
Well, the 60s are, let's face it, a dark stain on American history. At no other time has lawlessness and immorality been so widespread.
You're speaking of Watergate and our invasion of Cambodia.
No, I'm not. I see. I'm speaking of you. I'm speaking of lawlessness and immorality with regard to drug use and sexual practice.
Excuse me?
Disregard in the press for the sacred institutions that have made this country what it is today.
It was always my ambition from the start to make a funny film, to make a film that follows Spinal Tap as much as it follows The Candidate. And an entertaining film. There's a lot of music, there's 12 songs, there's some music videos, there's a beauty pageant, there's sex scandals. We tried to get it all in.
Well,
and,
you did. What also came across very strongly is that politics is all about image.
I think it's consumed by image. Certainly we don't see very much substance in our candidates. We are made to worship image. We're made to respond to smiles and to charm.
Some people will work, some simply will not. But they'll complain and complain and complain and complain and complain. Like this, it's society's fault. I don't have a job, it's society's fault. I am a slob, I got potential, no one can see. Give me welfare, let me be.
There's a strong British connection in the film because you've got splendid Alan Rickman in it.
Alan Rickman is greatly responsible for the film being made, actually. He came on in the last couple weeks in casting, and he basically gave us a green light for the film. So, and Alan's that type of actor. He's not motivated by his pocket. He responds to a script and to whether he thinks it's worth it. And we didn't have any money to pay, and that was not an issue with him. So, you know, I'm very thankful to Alan Rickman. I think he's a great, wonderful actor.
It has a very strong point of view, and it describes a moment in our political history, in our history, where lots of certainties or things that we held certain are disappearing. Not just the Berlin walls, whole systems. And there is this blurry moment that we have now, which seems like, yes, yes, democracy wins, but some very strange people are kind of minnowing up through that stream.
With the American presidential election, the world's most enjoyable spectator sport, reaching its climax in November, the film's release couldn't be more timely. Roberts' manipulation of the system and the media, his dirty tricks campaign to unseat the incumbent senator, splendidly played by Gore Vidal, look as if they'd been lifted wholesale from the Republicans and Democrats' handbooks. The difference is that Bob Roberts is funny, while the presidential election is not, unless you have a particularly sadistic sense of humour. The format of the film, a cod television documentary, rather like This Is Spinal Tap, about Roberts' electoral campaign, neatly underlines the fact that in politics today, as Tim Robbins says, image comes first with substance nowhere. Given the constraints of such an approach, especially the fact that we never see the characters in private moments, the performances of Robbins and Vidal, of Giancarlo Esposito as a public-spirited Rottweiler of an investigative reporter, and of Alan Rickman as Bob Roberts' slimy campaign manager are first-rate. And the film itself is so creepily convincing that if Roberts were running for president now, I don't think Bush and Clinton would have a prayer.